What resources, time, energy, tools, people, etc., feel abundant right now for you? And how are you using them to grow your bakery? And on the flip side, what gaps in resources feel like a roadblock? For example, are you stretched thin on your time? Hello, and welcome to episode 50 of the Breadwinner Podcast. I am blown away even saying that. What a surreal moment to have reached 50 episodes. I can't even tell you thank you enough for sticking with me and continuing to listen week after week as we grow our businesses together and giving me the opportunity to teach what I've learned and to learn right alongside you at the same time. It has been such a gift, and there's no end in sight. We're just getting started. So stick around. We'll be celebrating episode 150 before we know it. Today's episode is kicking off a three-part series, and it is being recorded right in the very beginning of January, which obviously is a time that is ripe for reflection, for intention setting, for looking backward and looking forward. But regardless of when you are listening to this episode, these reflection questions that I am going to walk you through can be used any time of the year. I love to take a pause right around every quarter and take a moment just to kind of reset, make sure that I'm still on track with where I'm headed, that I don't need to readjust a little bit, that the decisions I'm making still align with the values that I hold personally and the values that I've identified for my business. So these questions are going to kind of help you with that. This is a three-part series. So the very first part, today's episode, is going to kind of guide you through some questions to reflect on the past year, or if you want to reflect on the past quarter or past 6 months, and then begin to look forward to the next year. The next two episodes will be casting a vision for 2025 or for the upcoming time that you are looking forward to. And then finally, in the third episode of this series, we're going to be setting some really practical goals. I love this stuff. I get so excited. I love reflecting. I love setting goals, and I find it such a helpful and fruitful way to move forward and grow a business with intention. I am going to pose a lot of questions in this episode, so it's a great one to sit down with a notebook, maybe pause and journal a little bit. But if you're baking while you're listening, or if you're driving, or if you're not in a place where you can take notes, you can always visit the episode webpage for the full transcript, and I will go ahead and list out all of the questions for you there as well, so you can revisit it and have the written version of the questions instead of having to just pause and listen to me over and over. So with all that said, let's jump in. Today's focus is on where your business is right now. So your wins, your challenges, and the patterns that are shaping your microbakery. This reflection is going to help build the foundation for the vision casting that's coming next, and then for the goal setting in the third episode. And I'm just going to go ahead and read off one question after the next. I'm not going to elaborate a lot in between. I am known to fall into a little bit of a tangent here and there, so that may happen. But for the most part, this is just going to be a guided reflection episode where I'm going to offer a lot of questions for you to just kind of sit with. If there's one that doesn't serve you, you can just let it go on by or spend time with just one or two that really feel impactful for you. But with all of that introduction laid out, let's dive on in. Firstly, we're going to think about celebrating our wins. The first question is this: what moments in 2024 made you step back and think, wow, I built this? Maybe it was a customer's heartfelt compliment. Maybe it was a revenue milestone. Maybe it was finally nailing that new recipe. Maybe it was paying for your daughter's dance lessons or paying down debt. What moments made you step back and think, wow, I built this? Next, if you could bottle up one feeling from a 2024 win, what would it be? Would it be pride? Would it be gratitude? Would it be confidence? If you could bottle up one feeling from a win, what would it be? Next question asks, What strengths or qualities in yourself do these wins reveal? Get a little introspective. Think about those wins. Think about that feeling that you would bottle up and think about what that reveals in you. Are you resourceful? Are you creative? Are you a great connector? Are you bolder than you thought you are? Are you a clever problem solver? Reflect on the wins from the previous year and think about what that says about you. Nextly, let's think about the other side, about the challenges that you faced. When did you feel the most stretched or overwhelmed in your bakery last year? There may have been more than one moment, but think about what comes to mind first. When did you feel the most stretched or the most overwhelmed? And now spend a little time thinking about that. What was at the root of that struggle? Were you overwhelmed because you said yes to too much? Were you overwhelmed because you had other family obligations happening? Were you stretched because you didn't have the resources that you needed? Just spend some time reflecting on that. What was at the root of that struggle? Nextly, ask what feedback or insights, whether from customers, whether from your family, or even from yourself, challenged you to grow. Did you receive critical or complimentary feedback that spurred you to grow in a new way? Next question is this: if you could redo one tough moment from 2024 with the wisdom that you have now, what would you do differently? This isn't an I wish I did it differently or I wish I hadn't done it that way, because the heart is not to shame the decisions that we made or the person that we were before, but rather think about if you had the same opportunity or the same situation present itself again, how would you do it differently this time? Moving into our next couple of questions, we're going to think a little bit about habits and patterns. So the next question asks, looking at your weekly routine, what habits kept you steady even during your busy or stressful times? Was it your weekly soak with bath salts? Was it a day date with your husband? Was it just taking a moment for yourself? What are some of the rhythms or the habits that kept you steady? Maybe it's your morning coffee where you sit down for a moment and just take a deep breath, reflect, read, journal, whatever that is. Identify what kept you steady and write that down. Next, ask what patterns kept you stuck, like saying yes to too many orders or like putting off rest, working too late into the evening, second guessing yourself, forgetting to reorder packaging. And what do these patterns tell you about your current boundaries or your priorities? Again, we are not shaming the way that you have done your business, not in any way, but we can use it to inform the way that we move forward in a more intentional, more purposeful, and more effective way. So, what patterns, like saying yes to too many orders or putting off rest, kept you stuck? And what do these patterns tell you about your current boundaries or priorities? Maybe your boundaries and priorities are really solid and you didn't really feel like you had patterns that kept you stuck either. And that is okay too. But spend a little time thinking about this and identify if there's anything that you felt held you back. Your next question is this: if someone observed your business for a week, what would they notice as your biggest strength and as your biggest obstacle? What are you really, really good at? And where are you maybe getting in your own way? Or is there something that's holding you back? Try to think of this from an outside perspective, or even maybe ask someone who might have a little bit of observation, maybe your husband or your partner, if there's anything that pops to mind when you ask that question. What would they notice as your biggest strength and your biggest obstacle? Asking a question like that can feel a little bit vulnerable, but it can also be extremely powerful if you ask it with a heart that is open to receive and open to listen to an outside perspective, because so often we are so close to what we're creating and we are just right in it with kind of tunnel vision. And it's hard to separate and have a larger perspective because we are just right in there. And so getting someone else's perspective, or even just trying to remove ourselves a little bit and see it from a broader perspective can be really, really insightful in seeing your strengths that you can lean into, but also seeing the obstacles that you need to be aware of. Next question is this: what resources, whether time, energy, tools, people, feel really abundant for you right now? And how are you using them to grow your bakery? What resources, time, energy, tools, people, etc., feel abundant right now for you? And how are you using them to grow your bakery? And on the flip side, what gaps in resources feel like a roadblock? For example, are you stretched thin on your time? Do you lack a system for retaining customers? Is your equipment slowing you down and creating a bottleneck because you don't have the capacity with your equipment to keep up with the orders that you're receiving? And with that in mind, if you could invest in one area, whether time, education, equipment, help, what would give you the biggest return in ease and or growth? So if you could invest in one area after identifying what gaps in your resources feel like a roadblock, feel like they're slowing you down, what would give you the biggest return in ease and or growth? After that, the next question is this: imagine a friend asked you to summarize your business in the past year in 3 words. What would you say? And maybe you haven't been in business for a full year, but if it's the past 3 months or the past 6 months, if a friend asked you to summarize your business in 3 words, what words would you use? You could also flip this and think about, if you asked a friend to summarize your business in 3 words, what do you think they would say? This could even be a fun, here we go, here's that tangent, a fun, insightful exercise to ask your customers. Send out a little poll and say, if you could summarize my business in 3 words, what words would you use? This is something I've done in the past and can be really insightful in terms of making sure that you are on track with your values and communicating those to your customers. You don't have to communicate them explicitly, but if your values are something like transparency or sustainability, and your customers name those words when they're summarizing your business, that can be an indicator that you are right on track. But they may bring out words that you either feel out of alignment with or maybe feel aligned but just wouldn't have thought of. And so it can be a really fun exercise to send out a little poll and just ask customers for what 3 words they think of when they think of your business. All right, our final question for this episode is: how do you feel about your bakery's current state? Do you feel grateful? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like you're ready for a fresh start? Do you feel a little burnt out after the holidays and ready for a good long break? Because that is okay too. January is historically a slow month, and this is a great time to take a breath and to regroup and to make sure that you are building a business that is aligned with the needs of your family and your household, and that you can keep up with it, that it sustains you, that it's serving you well. And so use these reflection questions to just check in. So that final question again is: how do you feel about your bakery's current state? That can be anything. There is no right or wrong answer. This is just a really helpful way to get some insight and to guide you as we move into the next episodes in this series for vision casting and then for goal setting. I would love to hear if any of these questions gave you clarity, if any of these questions really jumped out at you and felt helpful. You can send me a message on Instagram. I'm Caroline Bauer _sourdough. Or if you want to share on your Instagram story and tag me, I would love to see that too. As always, the goal with all of my podcast episodes are to help you grow a business that is thriving, that is burnout proof, and that supports your life as a whole. If you want to take it to the next level, the Breadwinner Inner Circle is going to be reopening very, very soon. We'll be kicking off the next group of participants with the first call in February. So the wait list is open down below. You can join the wait list, and in just a couple of weeks, I'll be sending an email announcing the doors are open for enrollment. So if you are interested in growing in a group of people who get you, in going through guided, intentional structured program to target the 6 pillars that your business needs to thrive, the Breadwinner Inner Circle is a great way to do that. I am so excited to hear the insights that you gained through these reflection questions, and I'm very excited to share the next 2 parts of this 3-part series. So come on back for part 2, where we will be talking about 2025 vision casting. Episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. So if you haven't followed the show, make sure that you're doing that so that you don't miss an episode. I will be back very soon, but until then, happy baking.